Muslims as extremists, especially when they talk about jihad, define extremism in Islam. And if extremism is defined by talking about jihad, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is an extremist. Allah the Almighty talks about jihad. Allah sent verses about jihad. If this makes you an extremist, then Allah is an extremist. How dare you belittle Islam just because someone talks about the verses of his Lord? How dare you come along and say that we don't talk about this? No, it's not relevant. We're living in a time where jihad is being fought in more lands than ever. We're seeing more bloodshed and more oppression than almost ever before. And you say that it's not to be talked about. If you say that I'm afraid because I could be imprisoned in Australia, fine. You don't have to go out. As I said, your job is not to go out in the streets and say jihad, jihad, jihad. No. Unless your friend's name is Jihad.
Or your son.
I actually remember once I was at work and we had a person working with us whose name was Jihad. And we'd always be calling across the workplace, calling one another. And so the boss made it very clear that he's not to be called Jihad. I think they called him Jij or something, some silly, stupid name. And I said, I'm sorry, but I can't do this. So we come to a compromise that they accepted that I could call him Mujahid instead of Jihad. So it's like even the word becomes shameful nowadays because of this fear. Now, look, I understand if it's from a legitimate fear, and I could understand where they were coming from. Because as for the average disbeliever, they don't even understand what these pure and beautiful terms mean. I remember the other day I met this non-Muslim, and he said to me, I know a little bit of Arabic. He goes, actually, I only know a few words. It's really bad words. I said, what is it? He said, Allahu Akbar. And I said, you actually know two of the most beautiful words there are. But he was, trying to say that this is what the terrorists say. So he thought it was a bad thing. So you see that even Allahu Akbar becomes controversial. When will we get to the point that the imams will now say that we begin our salat with something else, lest people think that we're up to, mischief. So it's clear what our religion teaches us. The verses of jihad are clear. If they have problems with this, then take the Quran from your shelf. And if talking about jihad makes you extreme, I'm talking about proper jihad according to the real meaning of it. If this makes you extreme, then a true Muslim is an extremist. But the reality is this does not make you extreme. Yes, there are extremes. There were people who went beyond the bounds of what was correct. The Khawarij, they would kill people for doing major sins and call this jihad. This is wrong. And again, talking about this thing in Boston, I was disgusted to find that one of these moderate imams, as he calls himself, he said, we refuse to pray janazah over these two people because they're not Muslims. They're not Muslims. Remember, there's been no guilt established whatsoever. But even if this was the case, and even if, beyond doubt, they had killed innocent people, how dare you make takfir of somebody based upon a major sin? The first group to make takfir upon people who did major sins were the Khawarij. And people, today, when someone's, they say an extremist, they say you're from the Khawarij. Yet you find these moderates are closer to the Khawarij than some of these extremists. So no doubt there is a such thing in Islam as extremism. And the one who loves the words of Allah and expresses the fact that we as Muslims believe in jihad is not one of those people.